Setting up discussions in your course gives you and your students an opportunity to talk amongst yourselves. To set up discussions, the first thing you're going to do is go to your discussion board, which should be sitting in your course menu already. If you click on that, you'll find that there isn't anything in your discussion board to start with. The first thing that you'll need to do is to create a forum. You can think of forums in the discussion board like categories or folders or containers that you can put discussions into. So the idea here is that they will help you to categorize things together or give you the option of putting together a number of different threads for, say, a given week or a given topic or a given unit. To build a forum, you're going to go to this Create Forum option right here. And if you click on that, that will take you through to the page where you can set up a forum with a number of different settings. So in this case, let's say that I'm going to set up a forum for week 11 of my class. So I'm going to give that forum a name. I can also choose to put some information in here. So this forum will be focused on any questions and ideas you have about week 11. So once I've done that, I can set my forum availability. The default is that this forum is going to be visible to students right away. But if I feel like not having it visible until a certain date, say for instance I wanted to set up all of my forums now, but not have the one that was for week 13 available until week 13, I could choose to use the display after or the display until options. So I can adjust this to whatever makes the most sense for me and my students. The other settings here have to do with how students view and access the forums and what they can do with them. So if you look at this first option here for viewing threads, you have two different options available to you. Standard view means that when students log into the forum, they'll see anything that's there. So if students have already put up threads or been working in any of the forums, any student who logs in will see the materials that have already been put there. The other option that's available to you is one that makes it so that participants have to create a thread before they can view other threads in the forum. So the idea behind this is to, A, make sure that students are posting some original work so that they're not logging in, seeing what other students have posted, and then putting their ideas in based on what other people have said. It can also be helpful if you're dealing with a lot of students in your class, because it makes it so that students don't come into the forum and see that what feels like all of the ideas have been taken already, and then try to come up with something new. So in most cases, we would actually just recommend standard view, but there may be reasons why you want to lock things down a little bit more. The next thing you can choose is whether the forum is graded and how the grading is going to happen. So the default here is that there's no grading in forum. So if you just want to create a place where students can come in, ask questions, share ideas, that's fine. You can just leave that the way it is. If you do want to grade it, you have two options that are available to you. The first one is to grade the discussion forum. And what happens when I choose that one is that my grading is applied to every contribution that a student makes in a forum, no matter how many different threads that spans. So if I want things to be flexible and I want my students to be able to post a number of different threads with their different ideas, and I want to grade that, it may be that I want to see that my students have both posted work and responded to other students' work. This is a great way to do that because when I go to grade, I will see every contribution that the student has made to that week or that unit or however I've decided to conceptualize that. And all of those are going to show up in one place for me. So when I go in, if the student has created a thread and also responded to a couple other students in different threads, I don't have to go searching for those. Everything is just sitting right there, and I can see it all in one place for that one individual student. The alternative that's available to me is I can grade individual threads. And when I click on this, you'll see that Blackboard tells me that it's changed some of the settings that are available to me. And the reason why it does this is that if you're grading a specific thread, students can't create new threads themselves. Otherwise, it makes the grading much more difficult. So you can see down here that this option has been turned off. Members can't create new threads because only the instructor can create threads that are being graded. This also deactivates the anonymous posts option because if you are grading students, you have to know who said what. So this tends to be a little bit more structured in terms of what can happen and what can't. So looking at the rest of these settings, these are also a little bit variable depending on whether you're grading the forum or grading the threads. So if I go back to grading the discussion forum, I do have to specify a couple of things here. I have to tell Blackboard how often I want to see their posts. So if you want to see every post that they've put up, you can do that. If you're expecting them to say post 3 times in a given week, you could specify that, which would mean that you wouldn't see what they'd posted in the needs grading section until they've managed that 3 posts. You can set a due date here if you want. You don't have to. If you're being flexible, that's fine. If you want them to have a forum done by a specific date, you can choose that here. If you do have a rubric ready to go, you can apply that to a discussion forum. Another option that you have has to do with notifications. So the subscribe option here controls how you and your students are able to subscribe to what's happening in the forum. So you can choose to not allow any subscriptions at all. That means that nobody can sign up to receive an email anytime something happens. The other 2 options available to you will send emails when certain things happen in certain places. So this first option here allows members to subscribe to threads. So that means that I can go in, or my students can go in, to a particular thread, select the subscribe option, and that will let me or my students get emails anytime something happens in that thread. The same principle applies with this next setting, except that what that does is it lets members subscribe to forums. So if you subscribe to a forum and there are multiple threads or conversations happening at the same time, you'll get a notification anytime something happens in any of the threads in that forum. And then finally down here, you've got some options around create and edit. If you're doing anything with grading, you can't turn on anonymous posts. You do have the option to do anonymous posts if you're not grading though, although this is an option that not a lot of people take because it makes it more likely that students can say problematic things because there isn't a name attached to what they're doing. You can choose to allow authors to delete or edit their own posts. That's mostly a personal preference thing. But this setting here is an important one. So this one is allow members to create new threads, which means that your students can go in and start new threads for themselves. If this isn't checked off, you do have to be sure that you go in and start a new thread for students so that they have something to respond to because they can't start a thread themselves. If you are looking for something that's a little bit more flexible, where students can put their own ideas out into the world or try things out, you might want to choose allow members to create new threads. As for the rest of these options, by default, file attachments are allowed so that students can attach things if they've got them. And students are allowed to reply with a quote, so they can grab something that somebody has already said, and that will show up at the top of their response. One other option that's really useful to know about is force moderation of posts. In most cases, you probably don't need this, but it is a good thing to know about in case your students are responding in ways that are inappropriate. So if something has happened, if students are saying things that maybe they shouldn't, if you turn on force moderation of posts, this allows you to go in, preview the posts, approve them, and then they become visible to everybody else. So if you do have problems, you can turn that on and make that something that you have to go through before everything becomes available to everybody else. The final 2 options here are more about personal preference than anything else. Allow post tagging lets you, as the instructor, add tags, almost like bookmarks, to discussion posts, which lets them be grouped together and searched by students. Students can't create tags, but it can be a handy way of organizing things and making them searchable if you're dealing with a lot of different posts. You also have the option to allow members to rate posts. So this is a rating system like you would see on something like Amazon with stars, where students can rate posts that they thought were especially useful or insightful. Again, this is up to you whether you choose to use that and whether or not that would be something that your class would find beneficial. Here, I'm going to create a discussion forum that has a little bit of a description attached to it and that's currently available. It's going to have a standard view, and I've chosen here to grade the discussion forum. So the entire discussion forum for this particular topic is going to be worth 5 points. I've decided that I'm going to let my members subscribe to the forum if they want to, and I've set it so that members can create new threads. If I click on Submit, that's going to create my forum for me. So if I click on the link to go into the forum, because of the way I have this set up, students can go ahead and create their own threads, and they'll see the same Create Thread button up here that I see now. If I had set this up so that students were not able to create their own threads, I would have to go ahead and create that initial thread myself so that they would have something to respond to. So if I click on Create Thread, just call that questions. It needs that subject line. And I can choose to put a prompt in here if I want. So ask your questions about class here. And I can put an attachment there if I feel like it, but I don't have to. And if I click on Submit, now I have a thread that's been created. So students can respond to this. I can also respond to that. If I go into the thread itself, I have an option here to reply, and I can quote what came before, if there was something that came before, and because I'm the instructor, I have the option to edit and delete right here. So if I felt like it, I could respond to my initial post, say, ask anything you feel like. Then if I click on Submit, that will show up there. In the grading panel, you'll see all of the students' contributions to either a thread or to a forum, depending on how you've got your grade center set up. So in this case, we're grading by forum. And we can see that this student has made 2 posts and what those posts are. So in this case, I can grade a forum's worth of content at a given point in time. And to do so, all I have to do is come over here to where it's got the grade option, assign that a value. I can choose to put in any feedback that I want to put in there. So we'll say great work. And then if I come down here and click on Submit, that sends the grade to the grade center and back to the student.